Hello, everyone. This is Ingrid Cox, and I'm here with Diedre Windsor. And we are actually live on location for our very first podcast of 2025 at the beautiful Salamander Hotel in Washington, D.C. This is a Black-owned hotel by Miss Sheila Johnson, and we're just so grateful to be here in this space and just absorbing all of her entrepreneurial energy. And we're going to just jump into first our prayer, but we're also going to get to know Diedre a lot more, understand her journey that has taken her to where she is today, and also learn a lot of different nuggets from her as far as, managing our own businesses, walking into 2025 and starting to plan out our finances, getting our businesses in order for the upcoming year. Also talk a little bit about this upcoming administration that we're having step into the White House and how that's going to affect our businesses. So thank you for joining us, and please join us in prayer as well to bow our heads. Almighty God, we thank you for the opportunity to serve you as we serve our communities and our nation. Please let our mouths and our intentions be acceptable to you as we purpose to use our voices, our businesses, and our collective energy to empower others. We dedicate this podcast to you, Lord, as a national platform to speak up for change in a positive way. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you for being here, Diedre.
I'm very excited to be here.
Thank you. Can you tell us a little bit about your business and your journey and how you've gotten to this point?
Absolutely. So first of all, I want to say I'm very excited to be here. Obviously, as a founding member of BOW, I'm just very excited to see where we've gone as a group, and just excited to be a part of this and to be able to share nuggets because I get lots of nuggets and wisdom from others in BOW, so I'm excited to share also.
Thank you.
But my name is Diedre Windsor. My company is Windsor Group LLC. We've been in business. This is our 8th year in business. We just celebrated. I left my job in the federal government and at the end of 2016, started Windsor Group LLC, and we provide professional services. We provide project and program management, IT support, staff augmentation, and management consulting. And we do some training and development. And, sometimes you do the things that your clients ask you to do,
Yes.
even if they're not in your realm. What you do is you go and find partners that do those things, and you execute those as well.
Mhm.
So it's been a great journey for us. We are 100% federal government contractors right now. We are 98% prime vendors, but 100%. And that's one of the things that we're working on this year is kind of moving that needle so that we have some more diversification outside of the federal space.
Diedre, you mentioned that you started out as a federal employee. Can you share a little bit about what knowledge you brought from those many years that you served into starting up your own company, and if you use those skills today?
Absolutely. So I worked in the federal government for about 6 years. I'm actually a retired Army officer. I was in the Army from like 1986 to 2009. So I've been retired from the military for about 15 years.
Okay.
When I left the military, I went to the government. And it's funny because when I think back on it, I wonder where I would be had I not went into the government. I left the military thinking, oh yeah, I'm going to start a business, but I wasn't really psychologically ready for that.
It's a big step.
And so I'm so happy that I went into the government because the things I learned in the government, I learned about government contracting really, because one of my collateral duties was I was a contracting officer, a warrant holder. I always say warrant holder, but people who carry warrants who are actually official contracting officers for the government. They say it doesn't matter if you have a small warrant or a large warrant, you are a contracting officer and you can go to jail if you do something wrong. So I own that now. Like I was a warrant, I was a warrant certificate holder, but I did have a contracting officer. So I think during that time, it was a small warrant for $25,000, but just having the opportunity to give others an opportunity to get contracts was a beautiful thing. And I think just learning and seeing other small business owners and knowing, watching them, it made me say, oh, wait a minute, I can do this. What's funny is that when I left the military back in 2009, I thought I would run the business, start a business. I did start a business. As a matter of fact, if you look us up, our EIN is from 2010.
Wow.
But I was not psychologically
Yeah.
ready. I joined the government, ended up staying in the government for 6.5 years. And at the end of 2016, I said, you know what, it's time. It's time to take that next step. And so I think having been there, having seen so many other small businesses come through our shop, it just made me kind of realize sometimes you got to see other people doing it.
Yeah.
And it makes you say, oh, wait a minute, this is not as hard as it looks. Now, I will say this. A lot of people like me leave the government and think, hey, I can just go right into business. It's not as easy as it looks. The reality is what I knew as a contracting officer had nothing, I don't want to say it didn't have anything to do with business. It taught me how to different ways to get some business, like through the set asides and things like that. But the reality is I really had to learn how to be a business owner when I came out of the government. That's not stuff that I learned. Like you don't learn, like how do you take care of an FTE? How do you take care of a person that you end up hiring? So I learned those things from other business owners.
Wonderful.
Along the way.
Yes. You mentioned in your position in the government, helping other businesses. That made me think about BOW. And one of the things that we do is support each other. So I want you to speak a little bit about, being a BOW, if you've had any opportunities to help other BOWs and, how that makes you feel and encouraging others to do the same. I don't think we help each other enough.
Right. I think that's one of the things that I do in spades. I probably do that better than most people. I'm sorry. I do that because it's something that's always uppermost in my mind. In 2023, we won a major contract that allowed us to really subcontract, which means give work to other companies to the tune of about 30 companies. I'm actually still working on the numbers. I asked my bookkeeper, I said, let me know all the vendors we paid in 2023 and 24, because I would really like to lay that out. But I know just in BOW alone, I help between 8 to 10 other business owners.
Wonderful.
My mantra is, because people love giving you advice, but my mantra is if you want to help another business owner, you put some revenue in their door to help propel them forward. And so having that opportunity, and it wasn't like a handout. It wasn't like I was giving them anything. I went to people who did something we didn't do or could help us build capacity. One of our BOW sisters, who happens to be my joint venture partner, I called her, she was on a cruise, and I said, oh man, I really need an office in Virginia. And I mean, she was on a cruise and she basically said, like, say less, I got it. And I'm telling you, she called me back within the hour. She called WeWork or somebody. She ended up getting an office immediately in Virginia and started immediately looking for the positions. And we needed some outreach folks on the contract. So that's another thing. Like, to me, I'm open to partnering where partnering is needed. I don't do it unnecessarily just to say that I partnered with somebody. But it's important that other small businesses, that they're ready when that door is open. Because there were people that I did ask, hey, can you help me with this? And it seemed very difficult. And then I had to move on, because sometimes you have time to stop and say, here, let me help you, because I really want to see you get this. And sometimes you don't have time for that. Sometimes it's about like, okay, these 5 people, I've called one of our BOW sisters, and I didn't call her first, but another BOW sister. I had called somebody called me and said, hey, we got a contract. It was a small 8A contract. And I said, we are just swamped right now. I called another friend of mine who's in the 8A program. And I said, hey, talk to this guy. She asked this guy like 20 questions. And obviously that was too much for him. He was like, do you know anybody else? I called one of our BOW sisters. I called her. I said, this is what the deal is. It's probably a little out of your area. But I would like for you to talk to this person, and it may result in. She called me back. She said, it sounds simple enough. And now she ended up with a 1-year contract that now turned into a 5-year contract. And so to me, it's like, stay ready so you don't have to get ready.
That's right.
And that's real important. Like I can open a door for you, but you got to kick it in and walk in on your own. And if people aren't able to do that, then we're a small business also. So it's not like we have the bandwidth. we're not doing mentor proteges. We're not in that position. You know, we're not Deloitte.
Yes.
We're a small company,
Right.
and where we can partner with other small companies to get work done, we're gonna do it. And where I can partner with other BOW sisters, which there's always opportunities to do this. Recently, we won a very large contract vehicle, the Oasis Plus vehicle. And so thank you. And Oasis Plus is like $1 trillion vehicle, right? There are like 1,300 companies on it. But I look at it like that's an opportunity for all of us as BOW sisters, you know, because this is a vehicle that has 1,300 slots. But well, you know what I know about bidding and vehicles? Not everybody's gonna bid on contracts on these vehicles.
True.
Okay, but I've told several people, hey, listen, consider yourself on our team, because when you win these vehicles and you're by yourself, now I don't have any, I'm not beholden to any partner.
Yeah.
Because we went in on our own,
Right.
just as Windsor Group, not as our joint venture. So I can open the door for other BOW sisters and say,
Yes.
hey, listen, if you have an opportunity and they say, hey, they're looking at how they can reach you, this is a vehicle. You know, so I say, if I have this vehicle, then members of BOW have this vehicle as well.
Yes, that's wonderful. You mentioned 8A, and I want to jump a little bit into this administration that we have coming on January 20th. You know, some people are ready and love it and they're excited and they feel like their businesses are going to thrive under this administration. And some people are a little leery. You know, there's a lot that comes along with this new president. And I'm wondering how you feel it's going to affect our business. Do you foresee, I mean, I know we can't predict the future, but I'm wondering, just based on past experience, if you think that this will be helpful and aid our businesses, or you think it may be a little hindrance and we'll have a little difficulty?
I think that, and I don't want it to sound like, I don't want to oversimplify it, but I always tell people follow the money. As a military person, we are used to changes of administration. We're used to different commanders in chief. And so guess what? This is a new commander in chief.
Right.
This is a new small business leader. This is a new administration with different priorities. You got to figure out, but guess what? They are going to have priorities. And they will be executed by the federal government. And so you got to figure out where's the legislation that's being passed, how and when it's getting executed. And you got to figure out how what you do aligns with what the new priorities are. And then you got to figure out, okay, how do I go about getting into this agency? So if you're in transportation and infrastructure and transportation is a big thing, you got to figure out, okay, how does the Department of Transportation do business or whatever agency? I say to people, don't be frightful. Just know that and if I'm being honest, it doesn't matter who won the White House. You were still going to have to figure out what the priorities were for the new administration.
That's true.
Because even under a Biden administration, you're going to have something different under a Harris administration. And so just like under the new administration, guess what? You just got to figure out what are the priorities of this administration and how do I go about getting in there? Like if you're already in the government, it's just a matter of switching, you know, where you're focusing, where your focus areas are. And in some there are organizations that are heavy in defense. That might not even change. So it might not even have an impact on your business. So you really just got to listen to the news, read the news that you consider trustworthy news, where it's not, people's opinion, but people reporting on actual, this is legislation that was passed. And you gotta get on those sites where the legislation is, and you gotta read what the legislation is. When I think about the large contract we had with USDA, now, before we had that, I had never looked and saw any legislation, but because that was a legislation that was passed and work that had to be executed, I ended up going back, reading the legislation, and just it taught me how to do that, like how to go look at the legislation. Okay, this legislation says USDA needs to go get a third party and execute this discrimination financial assistance program. This amount of money is set aside for the administration of this program. It was all right there in the legislation. I'll be honest, that was the first time that I had seen work that we were actually doing laid out in administration. And then I realized that there was work we were doing other places like National Science Foundation that was laid out in legislation. So now that I know that, it's like, okay, let's focus on that more,
Mhm.
you know? And
Wonderful.
sometimes the legislation is out there, and guess what? There's no movement on it. I asked some folks in the farming area, like, why did it take so long for this legislation? Because that legislation was laid out or approved back in August of 2022.
Mhm.
But we didn't get the solicitation for the work to execute the program didn't come out until March of 2023.
Mm.
Okay, and a gentleman told me, he said, well, it was because we were up, basically, they were marching. They were what's the word I'm looking for? I mean, they were basically demanding that the administration execute on this legislation that was laid out.
Wow.
So it was somebody fighting for it. So sometimes legislation gets passed,
Yeah.
and I imagine that not all of it is gonna make it to from the page
Yes.
to actual execution
Right.
where somebody is gonna see a result.
Mhm.
For us, we were lucky because that was laid out this past August. We were able to watch 1.998 billion in financial assistance
Mhm.
go to over 43,000 farmers and ranchers. This is work
Mm-hmm.
we did that started at the legislation stage, and then we were able to see it all the way through
Yes.
to the end, to execution.
Mhm.
So
I love it. Diedre is one of our thought leaders. She was actually the BOW, what is it?
BOW of the
BOW
year.
in
Yeah.
2024.
I was
and
very
just-
surprised.
Were you?
Yes, I was super surprised.
Diedre has helped so many people. So I think some of the takeaways from today, and you can definitely jump in here, but
Mhm.
some of the things that resounded with me are number one, stay ready.
Yes.
I think a lot of us, myself included, are always, trying to reach out and get assistance or have others help us to build our business or share contacts or whatever it is. But if you're not ready, it doesn't make sense to even ask for help. So you got to be ready. I also heard you say that no matter who won the White House, we would still have to be ready for change.
Yeah,
and be
understand the new
adaptable.
priorities. Yeah,
Yes.
because every administration has their own priorities. It doesn't
Right.
matter if they're of the same party.
Right.
They still have their own priorities.
Mhm.
Kamala Harris did not run on the same thing that Joe Biden ran on.
Mhm.
They have different, so they have different priorities. There are different things going on in the world right now. So
Mhm.
clearly, their end game is not gonna be the same. So you would have still had to change it. So I do compare it to the military, because as military people, the commander in chief is the president.
Right.
And I was in the military, I was in the army for 22 years. So the
Mhm.
commander in chief, sometimes it changed every 4 years, sometimes it changed every 8 years.
Right.
But it was what it was, and then we
Mhm.
had to figure out, and we had to be willing, be ready to execute according to whatever whoever was in the White House.
Right.
Yeah.
I also heard you say another takeaway is, I know that you spent 22 years in the military
Mhm.
and then transitioned into federal government, but it sounded like you always knew that you wanted to start your business.
I did.
So I think if you have that fire in you and you want to be an entrepreneur, or you are now and you want to grow, I think it's important to listen to that intuition and make sure that that fire stays lit, and don't forget your goal. If you want to own a business or you want to grow your business, make sure that stays a priority in your mind.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
I would add that, and I'll say it more clear here.
Mhm.
I left the military in 2009.
Mhm.
I worked for the government for about 4 months until I felt like I'm not ready to do anything, to focus on anything.
Yeah.
But when I came back to the government, so in 2009, I retired. 2010, I got my EIN.
Mhm.
And then in 2014, I actually got registered with the state of Maryland, and I still didn't do anything with the
Yeah.
business. But I was so determined that on January the 2nd of 2014, I was like, I'm starting this business. And I started it, and then it was start, stop. But I was in the government at that point, because I was a GS 15 at the time. Then I became an SES, and you're kind of further restricted from doing certain things. But at the end of 2016, I felt like I'm ready now.
Mhm.
And like, really, I quit my job in August of 2016. I did not leave my job for 100 days. And then at the end of the year, I just said, we're doing it. And I left the job on the day before Veterans Day.
Wow.
In 2016, and then in 2017, at the beginning of the year, I started working. I
Mhm.
mean, interestingly enough, one of the jobs I took, I was a senior executive at the Department of Justice, but one of my first job I took, I was a secretary for a GS-15 for
Wow.
like 4 months.
Really?
And so I say that to say, be willing to roll up your sleeves,
Love it.
never give up on your dream.
Mhm.
Sometimes you got to do what you got to do. It's funny because the GS-15 that I worked for could not understand why I was there. I think he thought I was spying on him. Like,
Oh,
you're
really?
an NCF, why are you here?
Right.
And I'm like, because this is a prime contract
Yeah.
for my company.
Yes.
And he may not have understood that, but I understood. This is
I
now
get-
past performance.
Yeah.
Okay, and I can take that and say Windsor Group, it doesn't matter if I did the
Of
work.
course.
I could say Windsor Group did this
Yes.
work and we have past performance and somebody has paid us to do this work.
Yeah.
So now we use that to get more work.
And you're setting a
Yes.
standard. I do the same thing on my contracts. I'm usually the first person working
Yes.
on my contract to set that standard and let
Yeah.
that lay that foundation
Yes,
and set your reputation. Yeah,
Yes.
I don't blame you. That's
Yes.
great. I want to thank Diedre Windsor for being our first guest today for 2025. Thank you for allowing me to be your host today. Diedre was our 2024 Bow of the Year, and I'm just so honored that she has spent this time with us, dropping nuggets of knowledge to help us transition into 2025 boldly. And we want to thank you for listening. We look forward to having our next podcast next month in February. And we hope that you'll stay tuned and just continue to learn and grow with us. Thank you for your time, and we'll see you soon. We're signing off. Bye-bye.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.